Okay, well, I guess here we go.
Sorry, I already did mine, but cheers.
Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Moab, BLM land, right outside of Arches National Park. It's pretty cool to be here.
It's beautiful to be here.
My phone is currently just in the middle of the dirt road, so hopefully no one comes and takes that out.
Well, we can go this way.
But yeah, welcome to Moab. Welcome to the desert. Today we're going to speak about God. We're going to speak about religion, all the things you were told not to question. We're now going to question it.
We're now going to question it and have conversations about it and just open up that conversation of like I'm curious about what your perspective of God is actually. What do you kind of see him as now? Or how is he?
I wouldn't say it's a him either.
Ooh.
Yeah, see how you immediately said him.
You're right, exactly. That's what I mean when I say...
That's the training right there.
My training is
church has trained you into that.
Deeply embedded in it still, yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess we can get into the point of this episode is basically straight out there is that I feel like we both believe that God is not a singular male figure in the sky. A white male figure in the sky.
Right.
God is just everything. God is you. God is me. God is this place we're in right now. It's literally like everything everywhere around us. It's not a singular being.
Consciousness is kind of how I see it now. It's living consciousness, and that means if anything that's conscious of some level has an element of the divine in it. And it's something that I don't feel like I can even like rationalize in my mind anymore. I mean, I think that was what was so confusing by the church was they made it into a thing that you could be like, there he is.
Yeah.
When I think it's way more expansive than that.
Yeah.
It's a much deeper and bigger mystery that our minds, as of right now at least, can't wrap their heads around fully.
Yeah. I mean, I also don't think it should be something that should be understood completely.
Right. And tried to understand.
The mystery of it is God. And like as soon as you try and science it up, it is not God anymore.
It takes away the kind of unknowing miraculous beauty of it all.
Yeah. Also, just for context, like we both are coming from a
where are we coming from?
Christian background. Jackson definitely heavier than I am. Like I was raised Christian, but we went to church sometimes, but it wasn't like strictly enforced. But I did come from a Christian household. I was baptized as Catholic, and I believe.
I didn't know if you were Catholic.
Yeah, I was Catholic.
Interesting.
So yeah, I was raised with the stereotypical model that God was this figure in the sky, and we were down here, and you did good things, you went to heaven. If you did bad things, you went to hell. So you wanted to be good. And yeah, well, speak more to like what was it like for you growing up?
Yeah, mine was way more intense. I was Presbyterian. I grew up Presbyterians, and church every Sunday, Bible studies every week. Not every week, but for the most part, it was Bible studies very consistently. My family was very deeply embedded in the Christian and religious, no, not even religious, just Christian world. My grandparents taught at a Christian school, and yeah, it was just very, very in that whole scene. And there's a lot of stuff I learned from it. There's a lot of stuff I appreciated about it and like learned through it. And I'm still trying to navigate how to express about it and talk about it because there is a lot of truth that I still see in it and the truth that I still feel in it. But there was a lot of disruptions in what I felt than from what I was seeing, like in the sense of what I was hearing from the Bible and hearing from what we were supposed to be as Christians. Did not line up for how we were acting and didn't line up for how we were interacting with our lives and our mental states and our being in the sense of we didn't really know how to take care of our emotions. We didn't know how to take care of like our well-being in our systems. It was all just kind of, you were just very reactive to life and reactive to quote unquote what God had sent your way.
Yeah.
And I didn't, nothing in me aligns with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I think a lot of it is also, like we've spoken about, like placing the responsibility for your life outside of yourself.
that's really, yep.
So it's like you just go do your work, be a good person, and you're good.
Yep.
Which in theory is fine, but like
Yep.
there's a lot of emotion and action that is not taken accountable for. That's so easily blamed on the other. It's
Yeah.
the duality. Like you can blame it on other people, you can blame it on the devil, you can blame it on other religions, other gods. So it's just a matter of taking responsibility for oneself and one's own life. That I think that's where the conflict comes in with religion, especially I guess modern
Christianity.
day. Well, yeah, I guess Christianity's not modern
But
day.
I guess-
It's been around for a while.
I mean, what it's transformed into.
Yeah.
And I think what Christianity has done in a weird way has created this disconnect from the actual truth of what we were trying to preach about originally, like 2,000 years ago. Maybe Jesus was on a very different track than we find ourselves on in Western culture now.
Yeah.
And I think that it's created a dualism between every religion, in the sense of, you know, I'm good because I believe what I believe, and you're bad because you believe what you believe. And
It's also like this is right and you're wrong.
exactly,
Like this God is the only God, and your gods are
your
fake.
gods are fake.
Yeah.
Right. Which is, from what I have understood of it now, is that we're all really just trying to understand this expansive mystery that is consciousness, that is existence down here on this planet. And everyone has a different way of interpreting it.
Yeah,
And
and,
that
that's okay.
And that
And it
everyone's,
should be like that.
Yeah, that your interpretation should be just as valid as mine.
Yeah.
In the sense of your belief about how we are down here. I think emotions and, like, maybe not emotions, but emotional habits are what I come back to, in this sense of if I can resonate with somebody's belief system. If your belief system supports, you know, peace and, like, harmony,
Yeah.
love and
Oneness.
like collective coming together, like let's work together to be down here. I can get behind you regardless of what you say that belief is.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what you believe as long as you are expressing love
Right.
throughout that.
Because that's what I'm trying to express now through my life and my own existence. And I don't necessarily call it a God. Maybe I don't call it the same God that was up in heaven, but
Yeah.
I feel that energy that was trying to be expressed, I think, through the church. And then
I think that's why it got so confused and twisted, is because the original message was everything we're saying, everything we're speaking about.
Yeah.
It's literally just that one
Coming
shift
together.
of God is external versus God is internal.
yeah,
And like you can read the whole Bible and it changes meaning from that one thing.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is that God is, as a species, we've all been trying to point to God outside of us in all these different religions, and maybe we've been guided there, but we've all been pointing to God outside of us. And, like, when we can bring it into, I mean, I think about nature and I'm like, I'm the conscious creature here, not me, but, like, in the sense of humans.
Yeah.
I'm the consciousness of, like, a natural existence. I'm the awareness of being down here. I'm the awareness of that this is a planet that I live on. Like, the moose is not aware of that.
I mean, it might be.
It might be, but not in a way that's, like, rational or something that can be understood on the scale that we humans have taken it to.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I think, like, I see that in the sense of, like, we are the creators, quote unquote, of this natural existence. Like, in the sense of we've built cities and developed, you know, highways and
Sure,
a way
yeah.
of being down here that's different. That's something that came out of our consciousness versus
Different from
just
the natural flow.
exactly
Yeah.
versus just reacting, versus just doing what you do as a bumblebee or a flamingo or a
Mm-hmm.
whatever animal, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And I think that for me has really begun to solidify into the inner creator within me. It's not that I am God in that hierarchical sense of Christianity,
Yeah.
but it's like the inner creator within me is I am conscious of my existence, and I can create out of that consciousness and move through reality. And it's that flipping from like the external to the internal. And I think as I flipped it, all those external structure that was given through Christianity makes a lot more sense to me now.
Yeah, for sure.
And I can actually understand what Jesus was trying to, well, not that I couldn't necessarily understand what Jesus was trying to say, but I can apply it.
It makes a lot
better.
more sense now.
Yeah.
What he was saying and what he was doing.
There's not as much of a disconnect.
Yeah. So what is your feeling on why God has been externalized coming from the church and seeing how you see religion now? Also, I just want to chop up firewood
Yeah.
while we're having this conversation.
No, definitely.
But before you get into start this fire, and we're back into it. Got the fire going. Okay, so yeah, I guess. Yeah, what's your perspective on why God was made to be external rather than internal as it was originally preached?
I think that an internal God is like really powerful for a people, not necessarily for the people is really powerful. So I think that the external God was begun to be preached to kind of keep people in a submissive space of existence, like to keep them in like a place of like, I'm going to receive the society, the culture, the people around me, which then creates a hierarchy of power. And I think that that's like the biggest reason that it was kept under wraps, was because they created a hierarchy of power to where we can be in a place where we're at today, where there's such elite levels of existence,
of organization,
of whatever, of entityness in your existence, and then such poverty-stricken places still that are struggling to get by and struggling to exist. When in that inner perspective, it's like we're all one. We're all connected to that consciousness that is one.
Yeah.
So we're all just kind of playing out these different parts and these different like experiences of that love that connects everything. So there shouldn't be any separation. There shouldn't be any. This is very idealistic, quote unquote, as to where we are at right now. But in that sense, like there shouldn't be that separation of us as a species. But I think that that's why it was taken out into an external context. God was.
Yeah, well, I think as soon as it was taken to that external context, then it allowed for power and control, because the people in power could say, hey, there's this God up in the sky, and if you don't behave, then you're going to go to hell. And there was a lot of fear in that. It was all motivated by putting fear into people, the fear of God, literally.
Because if really a fear of man.
Yeah, but if they told everyone, like, hey, God is within you, God is everything around you, then there's nothing to be scared of. And people would just do whatever they want. So how are you going to organize society and move mankind forward, or even like retain power as a king, a queen, the church,
if
government?
Everybody can come together like that.
If everyone, understands that you can just do whatever you want. This whole world is free to do whatever you want,
and
pretty
explore
much.
And express.
At the very basis.
Yeah, and to come together on like a different, because I think about it like I think about where Jesus was coming from in the Bible, in Christianity, and the level of like awareness and consciousness was still so survival. Everybody was still kind of in this very like tribal space. The Roman Empire was like the first big empire in our timeline, I guess, that had really like solidified itself. But it was still very warlike. Everybody was trying to so everything is in that survival space. And like now, you know, we're still acting in a survival way because we're still acting in a survival way when we don't need to be. There's no reason for us to be like fighting against one another all the time. We have a broader understanding and a broader awareness of like life down here and existence and what we are as creatures, but we're still operating in that tribal way. And I think that that's part of the reason why we're still there, is because God was put outside of us, and you know, you had to subscribe to a certain paragraph or a certain kind of way of perceiving God for you to be fit into this, to be accepted, to be good enough. Instead of understanding that the God, you know, the higher self really is within you. God is within you, and you can learn how to navigate your inner energy and learn how to play with that. And that might manifest in all sorts of different ways that like people that aren't the same, quote unquote. But it's like none of us are the same. Like you and I are very different people. We do the different things very differently. But it's beautiful to do things in that difference. It's a different way of expression, a different way of like being a creature on this planet for me. As it is
and we can come together and love and accept our differences, and be like, cool,
and appreciate
I love how you do that.
Exactly.
And like, I still like the way that I do things, but I don't have to fight you because you do it a different way.
Right.
I don't have to say we can't camp together, we can't park together. But I also think that comes down to like the very raw tribalism of mankind, is like our subconscious, our ego, our like primal drive is trying to protect us from the other. So like I kind of understand where that comes from, but we also like are evolved enough to see that that's not a threat anymore.
Right.
Unless it is for some people.
I think it's like not a threat in the sense of, I think about a more of like an actual tribal way of living, where you're in a tribe and you don't know that the planet is just this globe operating in this solar system. You have no context as to kind of what's outside your sphere of circle. So if somebody comes into that circle, you're much more in a survival space of like, I need to figure out if we're gonna be friends or not. That's a different kind of conversation than what we're having nowadays, where I know that and have been to all the way across the world, to Bali, to Morocco, to like these places. Like I have a much broader understanding and scope of the world, and my survival is like way less of an issue because there's these structures in place, you know, for me to be in. So my awareness has been able to grow. My awareness of like life has been able to grow, and I think that we have been limiting ourselves with the religion aspect of it, and this is where we're kind of like evolving through, I guess, right now. Like understanding that God is not something that's separate from us. Like we are one, and we are working with him, her. I keep saying him.
Yeah.
We're interacting with the Creator, the love that is animating, and the frequency that's animating everything in existence.
I think it's even difficult to define.
It's
like you
very
shouldn't
difficult to
define it as anything. It's just it is. That's why like even using the word God is kind of like a trigger to me, because that's related with religion.
Right.
And it's like, I mean, I often refer to it like as the universe, not in the sense like the universe out in space, but like literally. Oh, I guess this is part of the universe. Like everything is part of the universe. It's all the oneness is God. That's why I'm trying to avoid using the word God.
I hear you. Yeah, and I think that that's where we're at as a species right now. It's like we've been able, the information age and the internet has been able to help us expand our minds as to what space we're living in. We all know now that we're on a globe. Well, flat Earth, but we're not going to talk about you.
I mean, it might be. Could be.
We are all aware that we're operating on a globe. It's orbiting the sun. It's part of this galaxy. You know, we have this bigger awareness of where we're at and what's going on, and we've been able to grow into more conscious awareness, like with podcasts and films and like seeing different like, realities and different, like all these things have helped us like, broaden our perspective of what's going on.
Yeah.
And so with that broadened perspective, I think it's helped us. Well, we're at this point in history now because we have to get out of this perspective that we are less than the creator of the universe.
Yeah.
We're not in that space anymore, in a hierarchical space. We are part of it all.
Mm-hmm.
I am part of the universe. I am part of that creation.
Well, I still think a lot of people do have that hierarchical system.
I think that they do too, but
and I mean, that's what our whole society is based on.
Yeah, and people, our journeys have helped us get to a space where we're pushing into that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that the chaos of the planet rests in like this kind of conversation, in the sense of the chaos of it all, in the sense of the separation. Everything's so separate. We're all so separate and like warring with one another.
Mm-hmm.
When, to me, how I see it is like we are obviously the conscious creatures. We have to let go of our perceived differences of who you believe is running the whole thing or who you believe is running the whole thing, and move it out of that like whole identification of God.
Mm-hmm.
How can you identify the existence of this?
Just everything.
How do you identify that? It's not identifiable.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you can move it out of that identifiable space and back into, it helps me get back into trust. I understand what trust and faith are now because of moving it out of that identification space.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I can just let go to the universe. I can let go to my intentions that I set out and ask for and say, this is what I crave, this is what I want. Because I am part of it all. And again, in my conscious creator state, I can be conscious about my creation. What do I want to create in this world? With art, like you and I have been doing this for so long in the sense of art. Maybe it wasn't as conscious as to like what we're talking about now, but in the sense that we were creating, we were putting our voices out there, we were impressing our existence into reality.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I think the human creature works in this space. And once we find rhythms with ourselves and rhythms with our different tribes, basically, we can find more harmonious, like creative spaces to come into instead of fighting with one another all the time about who's right and who's wrong and who's got what.
Yeah.
And building up boundaries is the ego thing. It's the identification of me versus you.
The other,
yeah.
God versus the devil, good and bad.
Yeah.
It's the
it's
duality.
Dualism. It's duality. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes from a religious structure. Duality stems from that religious space.
Yeah.
And it's been stemming out of the religious space that we've been in for so long because we've been in a dualistic mindset. And dualism is like something that we have to move through in our awareness. So once you can like move your consciousness up and through dualism, and that's the whole idea of the yin and the yang.
Mm-hmm.
You need both. You need both the light and the dark.
Yeah.
You need your shadow. You need these aspects of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You need the day with the sun and the night with the stars.
But it's working together. It's not working against each other.
It's working together. Yeah, totally. And like once we can begin to open our hearts to that idea, then the human race, I think, will be able to shift into a much more unified space, because then all of a sudden it's, okay, wait a minute, I can become one with the light and the dark within myself, the demons within myself and the angels within myself, the dualism within myself, and I can let go of this dualistic perspective of the world that we're separate. You're on a trip just like I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different trip. It looks different. You've got a different experience, a different like journey, but you're on a trip just like I am, and we can unify over that journey that we're on together as a spirit, like living through this existence.
Mm-hmm. Through this body.
Through this body.
Yeah. Do you have any questions for me? Or questions just in general that you want to put out there?
Yeah, so that dualism, when that started to break down for you, how did your perspective of your life change in the sense of, and then how did that help shift your perspective of God and how you grew up with God?
That's a deep question.
Sorry. I mean, hey.
I don't know. Well, I guess, like, I've never really... I don't want to say I've never seen an other, because obviously I recognize, like, other people and different people, and, like, have been scared growing up of other people. Like, I guess using ISIS as example.
Right.
Like, obviously I know that's an extremist group. It doesn't represent Islam at all. I mean, it does,
Sure.
but it doesn't
No,
represent the majority of Islam. But, like, I created an other out of them and, like, just could not understand their perspective. And that was creating that dualism. But yeah, now understanding that everything is one, we are all part of the same thing. Also, another thing that plays into it is I can have such empathy for people that are extremists on either end, whether it's ISIS or the KKK or somebody that's heavily embedded in the church. Like, it's almost like not their fault in a way. It's come from generations of programming of their parents teaching them that, or their culture teaching them that, and just keeps going back and back and back. And it all really leads back to the tribalism and a sense of power. And being scared of the other. And I think it takes an awakening, a conscious effort to realize that there is no other, and then you can start to overcome that. I guess that's my answer.
Oh, it's real shit, and like these are the kind of conversations that I think are needed to stretch these ideas, to like turn this, because it feels so rigid. Like the whole religious world, it feels so rigid and locked in.
Like, this is the right way and this is the only way.
Right, and it's not to say that, like, I respect belief. I respect deeply belief in the belief that people hold. I don't want to take that away from anybody. I'm not sure, you know what I mean? But I want to play with these ideas almost like a rubber band, more so. More with more elasticity to like bend and kind of mess with the concepts that we're talking about, because they are so big and they shouldn't be held in such a tight kind of way.
They also shouldn't be all agreed upon, I don't think. I think it's beautiful that we have different beliefs and different cultures and different gods. And we shouldn't try to force everyone into believing this one way of living. I think the thing that we should agree upon is that everyone is allowed to believe in whatever they want, as long as they aren't hurting anyone or fighting people because of that belief.
Yeah, and I think I think what helps me is that it comes back to like the frequency of your heart. Where do you live with your heart? Like, where do you live with your intention to the world? Are you living from an aggressive, angry, bitter, jealous, like hatred-filled space? Okay, like there's something that you need to look at within yourself. That's off,
and not suppress it. I think that's another big thing with religion. 100%.
It helps
suppressing the darkness, suppressing the shadows, suppressing the devil. Right. It does not exist. So I'm not just going to ignore that. But that manifests and bubbles up in so many other ways in life, through racism, for example.
Right.
Like, that's suppressed anger, that's suppressed frustration, that's all coming out.
Or insecurity, fears.
Oh, yeah, insecurity, fears of the other. And it's a lack of understanding or lack of understanding where the other is even coming from, or even trying to understand. We so often, well, I'm not saying like we, but like society often writes off the other before even trying to understand them. We just immediately label it as bad instead of looking at what caused that behavior, where were they coming from. And then you can almost see like the innocence of the other, or that, again, I'm going to use ISIS as an example, but like maybe they were like trained to be killers of the West from when they were kids. And
conditioning.
Like they didn't know any better. That was just their
like
life.
It was mine to be Christian. Like,
exactly.
And that's not, neither here nor there. It's just like, that's the world I grew up in. I didn't know anything else.
Mm-hmm.
How can I throw
and
shade at
as
you?
a kid, you have no concept or understanding of the world, really. I mean, unless you're really smart and your parents tell you. But if you're being brought up in that environment, that's what you're going to be.
Yeah.
So you can't really blame people for that until they have the conscious choice to make that. And when you have the conscious choice and the understanding of the other and have empathy, then why would you, in your right mind, want to do that? Why would you want to inflict harm on other people if you understand that it's almost not their fault?
Yeah, and that there needs to be grace. There needs to be that grace in every situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, oh wow, like I can find a space in my heart to see where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's heavy what you had to maybe
it's
go through.
difficult. It's putting the responsibility on yourself.
Yeah.
And I think it's not even in the sense of religion, but for example, if someone flips you off while driving and shouts at you, it's like maybe they're having a really shitty day. Maybe they just got broken up with, or their dad died, or they're going through something very difficult in life, or there's a lot of frustration and
Pressure,
anger that's suppressed.
Finances, whatever.
There could be so much going on in that person's life that you have no idea about. And sure, you could be reactive and fight back, and that's just going to cause more tension and more...
Continue the flipping off.
Yeah.
Energy.
Yeah, exactly. Cause more anger, put more anger out there into the world. And it takes being the bigger person, and it's not always easy, but to step up and see behind the action and the reaction.
See through it.
Which is difficult, even if you have to make up stories yourself. Like, they might just be a really angry person.
Right, they might actually just
They
be
might,
angry.
but that's also a result of the way they were raised.
Cool.
Like that's a result of their conditioning.
Yeah.
And I think once you understand that, you can begin to forgive people and just not be angry at people.
Mm-hmm.
So much easier.
And work with it within yourself. Say that's a trigger.
Yeah.
Something happens, you light up.
Mm-hmm.
It's like telling you something about yourself.
Yeah. It's like, why am I getting angry?
Why am I getting angry? What's going on here?
Yeah.
What's within me that's lashing back out?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What needs to be looked at within me? Everything is kind of everything's kind of a reflection.
Yeah.
Of what's actually going on within you.
Yeah. Well, it's once again taking responsibility for your own actions, and what if everything was your fault?
Mm-hmm.
So if that guy flipping you off makes you angry, why is that making you angry? Why can't you just let that go? What is it that's deep down in you that's making you angry that he did something, or somebody didn't stop at a stoplight, or whatever
right, whatever.
in life.
Even bigger stuff, president does something funky that you don't like whatever it might be.
Yeah.
What in that situation is lighting you up in a certain way? Because that situation is just busy being that situation. It's not doing anything.
Yeah.
Maybe it's directed at you with somebody flipping you off or whatever. But even still, it's it's triggering something within you.
Yeah.
Within me.
Yeah.
That tells me something about myself.
There's work for you to do to let that go.
Yeah.
I can find to not be reactive to that.
A way to not be reactive to this, and then also let it tell me what within me is still wanting attention, what within me is still wanting work. I think another big aspect of this is the whole, we men, we're not supposed to show emotion.
Oh, that's true as well.
I think this is an interesting aspect of this whole kind of conversation, because men are quote unquote the leaders.
Yeah.
In as of historically, we've been in the role of the leader. Mm-hmm. But we've also been in the role of not being allowed to show and express emotion.
Mm-hmm. Be the strong man.
We're supposed to be strong and not have, emotions and not cry and just
bottle it up.
Bottle it up and move through it.
Yeah.
That's really been shifting with the internet in this 21st century that we're in, but we're coming out of that space. So our previous, fathers in the journey we've been in has been in that space of no emotion. Mm-hmm. And I think that we've gotten lost, especially with that externalization of God, right? So there's no responsibility on me.
Yeah.
So I don't have to be responsible for my reactions to things. I don't have to be responsible to my emotional whatever. And I can become even more deeply disconnected with my emotions, when really the emotions are trying to show you the way to your more balanced and like higher self.
Trying to tell you what you need to work on.
It's like I'm here trying to give you this information so that you can like find
just
your way through.
Listen to me. Yeah.
Listen to me and like take time to sit with me and just like appreciate what I'm trying to tell you. It's not a bad thing. Like emotions are really, they're part of me. I've got a heart just like a feminine energy does. I have a feminine side just like a feminine energy does. You know, they have a masculine side just like we have a masculine side. We're all one with that. We have that inner masculine and feminine within us as well. It's not just at face value.
I think also like the more you suppress that emotion, the worse it manifests up in your life.
And I think that the emotion is really what's somehow it's got something to do with the creation. You know, if you're living out of a certain emotion, that's what's kind of constantly going to come up in your life.
That's the energy that you're giving out into the world.
You're giving that out into the world, and so you're going to be receiving back constantly.
And it'll just be a feedback loop as well.
Right.
Because if you're bitter and angry and frustrated, that's what you're going to put out into the world, and that's what's going to be reflected back to you, because that's all you're going to see.
Because that's
so
all
your life
feeling,
is just going to be miserable. So it's just feeding back all the time until you can actually sit down and take responsibility for your own emotions. But again, I know it's so difficult because people have been raised in these systems that are designed to suppress that. And I also get it, because that comes back to tribalism, is you have to be a strong man and not show weakness, so that you can protect and defend your tribe.
And keep it alive and keep it. But now,
But now we're not living in that world anymore.
We don't have to
so
live
we don't
in that
need
world,
to do that.
And we need to integrate the emotional aspect. We like a feminine energy doesn't want a man who's not in touch with his emotions. They want somebody who's very aware of himself emotionally. They want somebody who's grounded in his emotions and knows how to work with himself and like manage himself.
How do you think the church plays into the suppression of emotion in men? I mean, you've already kind of touched on it, but
I think just with the roles of marriage, there's something there. The woman's supposed to be at home being the homemaker. The man's supposed to be out in the fields chasing his wealth kind of thing. So he needs to just have a place to come home to and relax and chill.
And be provided for.
There's something there with that kind of like
relationship.
Well, relationship, exactly. That I think creates the I'm a man, I'm masculine. I also don't like. I think it's.
I think men are also so scared to show weakness. Like I think emotion is related to weakness, which it's not.
That's a good point. Yeah, I like that. The emotional aspect is related to the weakness side of things, and it's not like, and it's been so drilled into our head that if you're emotional, you're weak. Did you experience that? The emotion, if you're emotional, you're weak?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I mean, that was definitely something
I think that's like every male
coming out of
modern day is kind of taught that.
Through that.
It's big boys don't cry.
Right.
Like, grow up.
Right. And it's really...
And there was almost a pride to being tough as well.
Yeah, and it almost kind of reinforces the identity almost. Because it's like, I'm tough. I don't get emotional. Oh wow, you don't get emotional, and people put you up on an identity space in their mind, or the ego gets like inflated a little bit.
I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't have any emotions until a year or two ago. Yeah,
because of that.
I just like
Perspective
was
being thrown onto you?
so out of touch with my emotions that I just like didn't feel anything.
Right.
I was just a machine
Right.
that like had a goal, and I was like, I'm gonna do this thing, but like
And get out of my way. I'm gonna get
I had
there.
no like training to be in touch with my emotions or to
Yeah.
even recognize what they were. Like, sure, I got like happy and sad sometimes, but
Right.
I didn't have the understanding to see it as signs for something greater.
Mm-hmm.
To
When do you think that you started to recognize it? Or I guess maybe I should ask it like this: how did you start to recognize, like, oh, this is a sign? Like, this emotion is like a sign telling me something. Like,
I don't know if there was like a specific point. I think it just kind of happened through my awakening, where I guess I started to get more in touch with my own body, like what I was feeling other than my thoughts.
Right. Come out of your mind into the system.
Yeah, because like all my life, like my thoughts were me, and that was my internal world. It was just my thoughts. I didn't like. I mean, I was connected to my body in like a sports sense. I've always been very active my whole life.
Going to be the next question I asked.
But I was never aware of my bodily function, like beyond sport.
Got it. Yeah.
Like I never felt anxiety or depression or like.
Do you feel like the sports kind of manifested through a mental? I gotta perform and succeed in this way because I am this in sports, almost.
I guess so. Yeah.
Or did it? I feel like now it definitely comes out. I can see like now how it comes out in like a flow, you know. Although maybe, do you feel like it was an escape for like a way for you to come into a different space when you were younger, come out of your mind maybe and into your body?
Possibly.
Sports.
I mean, I also just loved playing sports, so it was almost.
That's what I mean, though. That's cool. Like that's cool that you had that like that heart. Like I want to be in this. Yeah.
So I guess it was. I didn't think of it in that way ever. Because I still genuinely love playing sports.
Right.
And it is a form of meditation for me to get out of my mind and into my body and like into the moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's probably that translates over now maybe into having an ability to maybe be a little more tapped into your emotions and begin to understand them.
Yeah, possibly, because I've always had a good awareness of my body. But it's a very different sensation, though.
Yeah, it is.
To like being physically active and being in touch with your emotions, like physical emotions. And I guess like anything, it takes training and awareness to get better at that and to keep recognizing it. Like even today when we were driving and trying to get to the national park on time, and I like
those emotions
felt the anxiety, whereas before I would never recognize that.
Or you push it down.
All that, yeah.
I remember a lot of times where I'd push anxiety down, I'd push it down and just force my awareness to not be aware of it almost. It's like I don't want to think about you.
Yeah.
You're gonna make me look weak. You're gonna make me look a certain way. Like the projected idea of who I had to be was gonna look a certain way, and I was like, I can't feel that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's. How do you see like that masculine, feminine roles moving forward now in your life? In the sense of being that more balanced space within yourself to find that inner creator who's trying to tell you, like, I can take you to, like, I'm taking you to a higher place within yourself. I'm taking you to a higher.
Well, yeah, I think it's just having the space to listen to the feminine side, to the emotion, and see that as a signal, as a guide. To then have my masculine, like, break through into that space.
Yeah. That's totally how I feel about it now, where it's like the feminine is my guide to my higher self in a way.
Yeah.
She's bringing me to like the new ways I can learn how to take care of myself and be like at peace with myself. And then the masculine is the physical creator of that. He's like, okay, cool. Like, how do I create that space? How do I create that frame? How do I create that, like, vibe, so you can continue to come out.
The feminine like gives the map, and the male's like, okay,
how do I create it?
Let's get there. How do we do this?
Let's get there, which
let's
is
send
rad.
it.
and then the cool thing too is like those roles that we used to play, the roles that we wanted to be playing for so long, in like the Christian church, quote unquote, in a sense of a masculine figure, leading the charge.
Yeah.
All of a sudden fit right back into place.
Yeah, it makes sense.
As you bring it back into your heart and bring it back into yourself, and you have that feminine, that relationship, that marriage within the masculine and the feminine within you, those roles come back right online, where it's like, okay, the feminine is saying, hey, I'm craving this kind of expression, or this kind of like state, or let's deal with this emotion. I think you'll be more free outside of this. Then the masculine's like, that, like, cool, like, let's go, let me like, I'm like a bull, like, let's go there, because I feel what you're trying to tell me, because of his awareness of his feminine, because of his internal, like.
Whereas I think if you suppress that, then you are almost a slave to an external figure telling you what to do, which I guess is the church giving you a guide.
Yeah.
Because if you can't guide yourself, then you need something outside of you to guide you.
But in the church, the church now is, well, that external guide doesn't really do anything. I don't feel like. My experience with the church was like, hey, this isn't really doing anything for anybody. Nobody seems to be happier. Nobody seems to be like more joyful or at peace with themselves. Or,
interesting.
There doesn't seem to be any sort of like positive benefits to this, other than
you do it because you have to.
We get to tell people at lunch where we went to church on Sunday. Not saying that there's not benefit. People don't find benefits and beauty and love in the church. Like, there's definitely a lot of powerful, beautiful stories that have happened and are happening. God comes in mysterious ways through all of us in all sorts of different trips and ways and experiences. But I think that there's that big disconnect for me of like, okay, internally now I'm feeling all sorts of shifts all the time. I'm in touch with that creator within me, that divine Atma, God, whatever it is, the essence, I can feel him shifting me all the time now, versus at church, it took a long time for me to have some sort of hypothetical transformation. Going to Sunday school or going to whatever every week. Like, it didn't feel as much, it didn't feel like it was like on the ground with me. It kind of felt,
it was this like external finish line.
Right.
We were speaking about that today as well, like heaven is this point way in the future where if you work hard and be a good person today, then one day you'll get to
live
heaven.
In this paradise.
Meanwhile, it's like,
we're living
look
in
where
such
we
a
are right
crazy,
now.
like, spot. It's paradise.
If you're able to open your eyes and see how beautiful this world is, this universe is that we're living in right now, the people that surround us, the experiences that we can have, we are in heaven if you choose to see it that way. If you don't, you can live in hell, or you can live in this middle zone, which I guess most people do, where at the end of their life they either go to heaven or hell. But I'm like, I want to choose to live in heaven right now, so I'm going to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in a week, and it's just that flip of a switch where it reorients, the figure of. It puts the pressure, or it puts the responsibility back on you for you to be able to create your life, but it also allows you to have faith in that responsibility. Like, I can actually have faith and trust that, my intentions that I'm changing within myself, my blueprint that I'm shifting in myself, the energy that I'm moving within myself, the healing that I'm working on, the emotions that I'm listening to, are going to take me to some new place, to some new environment that I've never experienced before. I'm working with the Father. I'm working with the Creator. I'm working with the universe to bring me to a new environment, and I can have a part to play in that transition, versus just kind of waiting for it to happen and waiting and hopefully being good enough for something cool to happen.
I think also I don't want to speak about like energy, but like I guess I can use another word for it. I'm trying to avoid spiritual hippie terms, but
I slip into that a lot because I'm just like, blah, blah, blah.
But yeah, if you change, and I guess this is what some people would say, like your vibration or frequency, but like if you change your energy to be a happy, positive, outgoing, fun person, you're going to attract people into your life and experiences into your life almost without you trying, just because that's the like radiance that you have into life. I mean, I've seen it, and with me in the past year, I'm sure you've seen it as well, of how much whatever you are feeling is what you see in the world.
Yeah.
It's almost like a confirmation bias. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. I might be mistaken.
No,
but
I think you're right.
Basically, like, it's kind of like when I was looking for this van, or looking to buy a van, and I'm sure anyone that's watching this that's looked to buy a new car, if you're looking for that specific car, that car will automatically
it'll run away.
Start popping. Oh no, it'll start popping up more frequently while you're driving around.
Yeah.
You'll start recognizing that car more and more and more. So that's the same thing with putting yourself in a position, seeking out happiness and fulfillment and positive, fun,
what you put
amazing,
out is what you get back.
Beautiful things. Is you'll start to recognize that more and more in your life.
Right.
Even like the terrible things are still happening all around us, but you just like don't even see that. Yeah. You see more and more beautiful things, and I think that's like the heaven that we're trying to aspire to.
And the more of us that can tap into that seeing of the beauty, the seeing of the light, seeing of the this is me talking to myself. the smoother we're gonna journey there as a species.
Yeah.
The smoke's hitting my eyes, so I'm kind of squinting, but I'm here in this.
Yeah, the smoke is coming full force at you. But yeah, the more of us that can...
What you put out is what you get back.
...come to that point, it's like a momentum thing.
Yeah.
And an exponential growth of going into this more positive world.
Right.
Where we're all seeing the beauty all the time.
Right. And like...
and like even death can be beautiful.
Death is just part of the trip.
Death is beautiful.
It's just part of the journey.
But that's a whole nother conversation. But like
for sure.
How we've made death out to be this bad guy, when it's part of our existence. It's part of nature. It's part of the universe.
You're not like fearing this, like, oh, I'm about to go get graded. Like onto whether or not I was good enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's not about that. It's just like it's the being good enough is quote unquote the quote unquote being good enough is here in the now, in the sense of what you put out is what you're going to get back, in the sense of like your life is showing you what you are existing as, in the sense of what emotion you're constantly embodying, because you're creating it. You're creating the frequency, you're creating the magnetic pull, I should say. You're creating the magnetic pull, like you said about the car. Like I want to get this car, and all of a sudden you start seeing it all around. You know, it starts popping up in your reality, in your existence, in your day-to-day life, because you're putting that out there, in the sense of your intention, and the universe responds to those sorts of things, because we are that one with the Creator in that way. That's how it manifests. That's how it I use those words like
just throwing them out there. No, it's fine. I mean I know what you're saying. I think like one thing I've thought about in this like manifesting and like putting out energy and like getting back, I think nature just has this magical way of keeping balance all the time.
Nature's gonna bring itself back into
it's
rhythm.
always finding equilibrium. So like again, what you put out there will be matched back to you.
I like that.
Not necessarily like just in energy, but anything in life. Like whatever happens, nature's gonna find a way to balance that out. If there's bad people in the world, nature's gonna somehow find a way to neutralize that. Whether that's in 100 years, 1,000 years, when all humans are gone, it'll happen. Nature is the best thing at bringing balance to the universe. Well, the universe is the best thing at bringing balance. Like
It's through nature. It's coming through that physical form.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's interesting too, because like in the sense of dualism, like we were talking about earlier, you know, right and wrong, good and bad.
Yeah.
Like nature's saying that happened. I'm gonna pull that back into balance by bringing up the other side.
Well, I think also in nature there is no good and bad. Like
Yeah,
there can be a fire, there can be a flood, but
it's part of
in
its
nature,
rebalancing.
In nature, that's not good or bad. It just is.
Yep. It's just existing. It's just doing its thing.
That's just nature, and we humans have created the idea of good and bad.
Right.
When in fact there is no good and bad. There just is.
And that's our fear.
Yeah.
That's our fear, which is something that we can look at, and what is it showing us? What is our fear showing us? You know, we can learn from that, just like we were saying about the other emotions. Like we can learn from that and accept what it is. You know what I mean? And instead of giving it fear, giving it energy, giving it emotion, we can accept what it is and move through that fear with as much awareness and much as like intentionality as we can. And focusing on what do I want in this situation? You know, what am I trying to create in this situation through this? You know, what is this fear trying to guide me to?
Yeah. I guess we can start wrapping it up. Is there, like, what would you say to people listening right now? Or, like, what would you want to say about the topic of God and religion? I know we've been speaking about it the whole time, but, like, if you could kind of, like, wrap it up.
I think the word stretch is coming up and the word relax is coming up. I think it's like we have to relax our minds about this idea of God. You know, let's relax that word and stretch it into a little bit more all-encompassing kind of way of thinking. You know, it's something so beyond what we can say that we know. I can't say that I know anything necessarily in that context. I can say that I'm constantly learning and I'm constantly being shown and stretched. Like what I'm here to do and what I'm here to offer and what creation is trying to do through me. So yeah, I'd say just like stretch that idea within yourself and relax that idea within yourself, and like see if we can find another way through to love and to oneness with each other. What about you?
I think that it ties into another word is just being open.
Yeah.
Be open to other possibilities. Be open to other people believing whatever they want to believe.
Right.
Be open to God not being this figure in the sky that maybe that's what you've believed your whole life. Be open to questioning religion. Be open to questioning the universe, nature, yourself.
Yeah.
I think another thing, I mean, I kind of believe that almost all religions or traditional religions are saying the same thing.
Yeah.
So why are we othering people and fighting against people who believe the same thing, but we just call God something else?
Yeah.
It just makes no sense to me. So yeah, I think once we can get over that, hopefully start seeing empathy for other people, and know that no one chose to be raised the way they were, to be conditioned the way they were, but hopefully through conversations like this, we can raise our own consciousness, become more aware, to see through the layers of conditioning behind people and see empathy and therefore show love and just be love to everyone, no matter where they came from, who they are, what they believe in,
what journey they're on,
and what they're doing.
Beautiful. You're down here.
Yeah.
Too.
I know. Stop seeing God as external and start seeing God as yourself. You are God. We are God. Nature is God. Everything is God. Everything is the universe.
And he's talking to you. she's talking to you. It's
Yeah,
all
just listen.
It is talking to you.
Yeah.
You know, through your emotions and through these kind of real physical things.
Yeah.
Me talking to me. You know, I'm being constantly told, you know, where my path is and what my next steps are.
Yeah.
And
Just be there to listen.
be there to listen, be open to listen.
Yeah.
It's a big conversation for sure.
Yeah. That was a good one though.
But that felt good.
Yeah.
It felt like,
yeah.
I don't hear conversations like this a lot, so I appreciate it.
Yeah. I appreciate
Yeah.
you for listening. I appreciate whoever is listening to this. If you made it this far, thank you so much.
Magical.
Yeah, it's been so beautiful
Comment
to do
below.
this in Moab, Utah as well, with this incredible heaven around us.
The stars are about to come out. I'm so
I know.
excited.
Yeah, we're about to get warm and cozy next to this fire. Yeah, thanks for listening to The Bridge, and I think we got like 3 more episodes.
As of right now.
As of right now, I'm sure there might be more. But yeah, I guess if anyone is interested in what we're doing, we are traveling in our vans together for probably another week or so.
Yep.
And we're just making this like limited podcast video
Yeah. This space
conversation
is open at the top.
series. I hope there'll be more in the future. I'm sure there will be.
Yeah.
Yeah, sweet. I think we're good. Woo! Peace out.